I mean, big change in the private label world has been incentivized reviews, right? So last year, October 2016, Amazon came out and said you can no longer give product at a discount or free in exchange for review. That was a big game changer and made it much more difficult to get reviews, and is a good lesson because when something is working well on Amazon, you need to be aggressive and take full advantage of it, because some of those reviews were ultimately deleted, but there were some brands that went out and got thousands and thousands of reviews that did these giveaways at a discount. And, they're a step ahead of the game, right? Because now, a product may have 3,000-4,000 reviews, and a new product or somebody who didn't take advantage of that opportunity to do a lot of giveaways, maybe they did a little and got like 20, 30 reviews and weren't super aggressive. Now it's much harder for them to get those reviews. And so the lesson is when something's working well on Amazon and it's within their terms, take full advantage, run with it, be aggressive.
Wow. What's going on, everybody, on YouTube and iTunes? Steve Raiken here with the Raiken Profit Show. This is episode number 19 with Liron Hirschkorn, and we're going to be talking about how to grow a 7-figure private label brand and how to differentiate your products when selling on Amazon FBA, which is huge. So I want to welcome you, Liron. What's going on, my man? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. I got to meet Liron. I think we were in... Was it Jersey at Sam Cohen's conference?
Yes. Yep.
So we were sitting around the dinner table. I had brought my mother, Mama Profits, and I think Chris Green was there, and Steven Peterson, and we were having a good time. And I really connected with him and his story, and I want to bring him on because not only has he helped hundreds and thousands of people with AmazingFreedom.com, he teamed up with Andy Slamans, but he's a 7-figure seller as well. So he's been around the block. He's a great teacher, and I thought he would really be able to bring a lot of value to you guys. So, Liron, I want to share with people kind of how you got started with Amazon and private label, and how did you go from, not being on Amazon, I'm not sure what you were doing before, to having a 7-figure brand?
Yeah, so internet marketing has always been one of my hobbies, but my background was in financial services. In 2011, I decided to kind of go out on my own with financial services and had an online life insurance agency. And since it was always kind of a hobby of mine, I was always looking at different things in internet marketing, a lot of stuff that failed. I was flipping domains at one point, had a couple of e-commerce websites. In 2014, I had an e-commerce website, a Shopify store that did pretty well. It was drop shipping from wholesale suppliers. When I got an order, they would ship the order to the customer, so no inventory. And then, Facebook started popping up with a lot of different, courses and stuff. I had taken a e-commerce drop shipping course. That's how I got into that, Shopify store. And then after that, found out about Chris Green and FBA and started with retail arbitrage. In the meantime, I was still running my insurance business. I was running that from home and really got into arbitrage. And probably many other people that got into Amazon starting out with retail arbitrage, and basically did retail arbitrage and online arbitrage for about a year until I started to really, wanting to scale my business, and at the same time also getting some inauthentic claims on things like Nike. I'm sure people watching this have kind of experienced that. And I had started with a couple of products in PL, and then it was like back-to-back inauthentic claims in a period of 2 weeks. And I was like, what, I really going to put the brakes on my arbitrage business and go all in with private label. And so, I find that a lot of our decision making is made emotionally and we try to justify it logically. But for me, it was definitely an emotional decision in terms of wait, I don't want my Amazon business to go down the drain. I don't want to be suspended. I had all these fears. And at the same time, also realizing that I wanted to scale my business, and that I thought private label would be a good way to do that.
Cool, man. So you've been doing private label for how long right now? So how long has that been since you transitioned from the retail arbitrage and then the inauthentic claims and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so sometime I think in the summer of 2015 is when I kind of started with private label and transitioning out of arbitrage into private label. So I started with, a couple of products Then I went all into it at some point in 2015, and then 2016, 2017 was really all focused around private label.
Oh, that's cool. So it's only really been a couple of years, and you've been able to scale up to 7 figures, which is really cool. For the people who are wondering what exactly is private label and how are you able to scale your business, can you kind of talk about your business model? Like what exactly is private label?
So private label is basically, I can sort of size it down to its simplest form, which is, a supplier in China is making, 1,000 iPhone cases, and they take an iPhone case, put my brand name and logo on it, and it's now my own private label. It's generally products that are already being made by suppliers, and that's kind of the most basic form, right? And we could talk about how to sort of, what I like to call is going beyond private label, right? Coming up with unique designs, with things you can patent, licensing, a lot of things where you can kind of differentiate further and take your business to the next level. But in its simplest form, it's a manufacturer, they're already making a product, applying it to other people, and they sort of stamp your logo on it.
Yeah, one of the things that we were talking about when we were getting this interview set up was kind of like an angle, something unique and different to talk about. And you mentioned the importance of differentiating your products when private labeling, because so many people, they're going out and they're private labeling the same thing. For example, watermelon slicer. If you were to, type that into Amazon, essentially everybody's selling the same thing. Now, there are people who are differentiating a couple different ways, which we can talk about. But what are some of the easiest, simplest ways for somebody to differentiate their product from the next guy or gal when selling on Amazon via private label?
Yeah, so there's lots of things, and you don't really need to, I would be opposed, or I would say to somebody, don't try and go inventing a new product or go with prototyping or spending tons of money on, bringing something to market that you don't know what the success will be, right? So I already know that watermelon slicers have demand on Amazon, right? But I also don't want to produce the same product everybody else does, because, the question I often like to ask is, why would somebody buy from me, right? There's already existing products. There's already products with good reviews, good listings. Why would somebody buy from me? So, you can look at things like the materials used. You can look at things like the colors, the packaging. What are some things that you can differentiate with? And sometimes it could be as easy as packaging, right? What if everybody, let's assume, right, that everybody on the market sold their watermelon slicer in a poly bag, and I made it into like a beautiful gift package, right? Or maybe I took that watermelon slicer and I made a fruit slicing kit, right, or set, and it included an apple corking kind of thing and a watermelon slicer and a bunch of other things, and I made it into a beautiful gift set, right? And I could target a higher price point. I could, target somebody looking to gift an item as opposed to buying it for themselves. And then you start to think about, okay, well, these are some things I could do to differentiate. One of the tips that I can give you is that you don't need to be super creative. You can go to, one of my sort of secrets that I use is I go to websites like Pinterest, right? And I'll go in and I'll type watermelon slicer and see what else is out there. What else is out there that's not on Amazon, or that maybe has popped up on some other website, or some ideas, some creative ideas on how to come up with a different type of product that's already there. At the same time, there's only probably so much you could do with a watermelon slicer that it might not be a good, product. Like if I were to create, let's say, a watermelon slicer that was made out of like the most amazing materials, but it cost $30, and people aren't willing to pay more than $10 for a watermelon slicer, then it wouldn't be a good idea, right? So you want to kind of validate the idea somewhat, but you really can differentiate, and it doesn't have to be reinventing a product.
That's cool, because you hear a lot of people talking about using things like Jungle Scout and different techniques for finding a profitable item, right? Has a demand. There's space for you to come in and obviously take a slot on the first page to get a piece of the pie. But you don't hear many people talking about, okay, now that you found the product, now let's go a step further and see how we can add more value and differentiate, because really that's all competition is, right? I mean, and on Amazon, there's so many different factors. So that's really, really cool right there. Let's talk about when you are differentiating a product. How challenging is that to work with manufacturers when you want to change up different things, maybe like improve a material or a different type of packaging or a different color? Is that something that takes, special expertise, or is it just a matter of essentially communicating what you're looking for and ordering samples?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of depends on the supplier. But one thing I want to add is that, when I sort of look at those calculations, like you said, and I want to try to get a piece of the pie, I don't necessarily want to end up on the first page to just get a piece of the pie. I want to
Mm.
take away from the other seller's piece of the pie that they're getting, right? I want to be able to come up with something that's better, that's nicer, that's going to not just say, okay, well, if there's, $50,000 in total sales a month out of all the products on page one, I want to get, my 10% stake or 5% stake as being one of the people on the first page. I want to go for 25% on the first page and take away market share by coming up with a better product. And that's really what entrepreneurship, right, is. It's being able to add more value to a customer and not just, say, okay, I'm going to share it because I made it to page one. Because once you're off page one, it's not going to be so easy. But if you really have a differentiated product and value set, then you could grab more than just an equal amount of the page one sales. Now, so as far as suppliers, it's generally not difficult to do things like color changes, custom packaging, and I've made changes to products that I have a product line where I have a patent pending design, and it was really as easy as showing my supplier sort of a picture of something that I wanted to do with some changes to it, and they actually drew out a sketch for me and said, "Hey, is this what you want to do?" And I did, and then now I have 3 patent pending products, all from that supplier, from the same line of product that the suppliers even told me other sellers have come to them with my Amazon product that I put on the market and said, "Hey, can you make this?" And they've told them, "No, there's a patent pending on that product." But I have gone after one person that copied the product. But yeah, it's generally, if you're dealing with, anything could be done. It all depends really. The question is going to be what quantity you have to order changes, right? If they're making already 2,000 iPhone cases in black and you want to buy 200 and put your logo on it, probably not a problem. But if you now want to make it in a tie-dye color that they've never made before, well, that may be a different mold, and that might require 1,000 units as opposed to 200. So there might be some differences if you're making, changes.
One of the things I'm mesmerized by, and we mentioned it before, is, and I think we talked about it in terms of differentiating, like creating like a bundle and different things like that. You see some people, you mentioned how they'll have like 5 or 6 or 7 different things bundled together. And I'm just like mesmerized by it because I've been on the private label journey myself, and I've been researching lately, and I see some of these listings that have like, it was like a cheese grater and then like this wine thing and wine core. I don't know. It was just like this huge lot. And I'm like, wow, like, like when you, first of all, I have a couple questions. When you create a lot of like 4 or 5 things, is it extremely hard to put something like that together? Because you might have to like source from multiple suppliers. And number two, like, for example, like, are you competing with, like, say you have something to do with the wine niche, but you have 5 or 6, and then your competition only has one of those items? Are you still competing with them, or now do you have a completely different product?
I have a completely different product because you're not competing necessarily for that same, but you might be competing on keywords, right? So you might want to for cheese grater and for wine cork, or you might want to rank the product for different terms, and so you're competing with those sellers for that page one positioning, let's say for keywords, but you have a differentiated product, right? So where a cheese grater might, again, be a $10 product and you're bundling 5 things, $35 price point. So you're kind of targeting a different user, but you're trying to say, hey, I'm creating more value here. I'm providing you 5 things that you might need for the perfect party night, right? And so you're creating essentially sort of a different product, but you're maybe able to capture some market share if a lot of people who are buying a cheese grater are also buying wine corks because they're planning the perfect party night, right? It's kind of like selling a lot in the party niche, right? If somebody's looking, there's products on Amazon that are just balloons, but then there are bundles for, first birthday
Right.
party kit, right? That's going to be, the balloons and streamers and a whole bunch of cloth cover, whatever that says happy birthday and a sign. And so to reach that person that for multiple products and creating value by offering it all sort of as one product.
Now, is this something you'd recommend to a beginner or someone who hasn't launched their first product to start bundling items like 4 or 5 different things? Because, and I had asked you before, is it really hard to like, well, I know a bundle, you have to put it all together. So like, I don't like if you're sourcing from multiple manufacturers, I don't know how that would all come together unless they all ship it to your house. And now you have to put the whole bundle together and polybag it. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that whole thing? Because I know it's a great way to differentiate. I just don't know if it's too much for a beginner, if it's more of like an intermediate advanced.
So I would say, one, it's a lot easier if your supplier can produce both those products. Also, or sometimes your supplier acts as both a manufacturer and a trading company where, they make the cheese grater, but they're going to source the wine cork product for you, or, the wine opener for you. And then they'll be able to do the packaging all together and do it for you. That's going to be much easier. You can also have it sent. You can have one supplier ship to another supplier, and they'll do the packaging and everything based on that. You can have it shipped to a prep center in the U.S. where it'll be bundled if you're doing like a poly bag or something like that. So there's ways to do it. I would say, if you're using multiple suppliers, it probably does get a little bit complicated and maybe not the first thing you should do. I would say the biggest mistake I see people who bundle is they see one product that's saturated like a barbecue glove, and then they take that with meat claws, another saturated product, and they put it together, and they think that somehow it's going to be totally different and not, and that they compete, but it's not always the case because you're still in a very saturated space, and sometimes somebody's just looking for barbecue gloves, just wants the barbecue glove, and they may not be interested in the bundle. So one, you have to make sure that there's, that there would be really value added in a bundle, and also that, it's not sometimes good enough reason to say, I'm going to go into that saturated space, but hey, I'm bundling it, so it's all good, right? So you want to think about, I don't think it's something you need to do. In fact, none of my products are bundles, as an example. Wow. So it's something people do. I think it depends also on the space and the niche. Again, if you're going to be in the party supply business, then you want to have a tablecloth and plates and everything that could be provided. And that's where kind of I think it makes sense, right? Certain niches it'll make a lot more sense for, but if you're selling headphones, you're going to try to think about, okay, what can I bundle with headphones? I don't know. I mean, what makes sense? Like, does it make sense to add some kind of case to store them in or something? Maybe. Would people be willing to pay a higher price for it? I don't know, right? So you don't want to force a bundle per se.
Cool. That was some really, really good information right there on differentiating your product. So Liron, definitely appreciate that. If the folks on YouTube are enjoying this, be sure to go down below and smash that like button. For the people on iTunes, just keep listening, keep enjoying all the content. I also want to shout out really quick that for anyone who has any private label questions, Liron, Andy, Nathan as well, right? That's Andy's brother, Nathan? Yeah, these guys. Nephew, got it. Okay, cool. They have a free Facebook group. It's called Amazing Freedom, and we'll be sure to link that up below. You can check out amazingfreedom.com, but be sure to join the free Facebook group because these guys are great. They're in there. They're answering questions, and there's no excuse. If you have a question, it's 2017. Just ask away. There's like so many people who are willing to help you. So definitely check that out. Links below. Let's talk about branding because I know you mentioned the importance of building a brand. I see a lot of people just white labeling, private labeling products. Just they're kind of like I think you mentioned they were like Me Too products, right? Quote unquote.
Yep.
Why is building a brand important? And is it necessary to succeed on Amazon to build a brand? And then maybe even dive into what a brand even is, because it's like an obvious word, but people might not even realize. Like sometimes I think like, what is a brand?
Right. And so on Amazon, there's kind of two philosophies in terms of how people do private label. Is sort of and generally how people start out is you're sort of looking for the best opportunity. You're searching across multiple categories and that there is, and you launch a product, right? Your second product could be either the same brand, right, which means you're going to build out another sort of related product. So I would say then you probably want to have your brand name similar, using a similar brand name if you're going to build the product again in the same category, right? A baby product and a sports and outdoor product probably with the same.
Right.
You want to kind of build related products. So your second product could then be an extension of the first one, which could be a related product. Let's say you're doing backyard games, right, or something, or outdoor games, and you have like a cornhole, whatever game. Then you might do a disc golf game as your second product, right? And you're starting to build a brand around that, right? So the question, do you have to do that? No. Amazon is that you can launch in a totally different category, different brand name. You can have just as much success. The benefit in building a brand, I think, is you have multiple benefits. One, if you ever think about, okay, selling, right? You want to sell a brand, related product in one brand, it's going to make that brand more valuable. If you ever think about wanting to go off of Amazon, build a website, target an audience, right? It's kind of you're not going to have a website with 20 different types of products, right? You're trying to target an audience. Different products, but if you have 4 or 5 related products, that could be the beginning of target, and you build an audience and people who are interested in that niche that you can market to. You could do the same thing with, creating a Facebook group and, again, targeting that same target audience. And what is a brand really? A brand is almost like its own identity, right? It has a certain voice, it has a certain feel, it has, certain characteristics, just like a personality does. It can be fun, or your brand could be cutting edge, or, your brand can have a variety of characteristics, and you're sort of building that and building a following of people who have some sort of emotional connection to your brand, right? They're willing to buy. I went to the Apple store today, and I like to, shop at Apple because I have a better experience, better return policy, things like that, than going to Best Buy, right? I have a connection to the Apple brand. So you're starting to sort of build that. The one thing you could do also is you can have people buying some of your related products, right? After they buy one product, they might look at your other products. So if it's in being a brand, I have basically a couple of brands that I've built out with multiple products. It's not something you have to do. I would say for your first product, kind of go after what you think is a great opportunity first. And then for your second product, you want to think about, is this something where I can build related products around this within the same category, or do I want to go to another category and start a different brand?
Yeah, plus when you get in, start building a brand, you really get to know the niche. And at the end of the day, I mean, people are giving you money on Amazon because you're adding value. And how do you add value? You're solving a problem. So by building your brand, you're getting to know your customer even more. And I'm sure you've been able to figure out and, I don't know, just find cool ways to be able to add value to them and really get an understanding of their needs and wants. So I definitely love that there. I got a question for you, Leron. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions, man? I'm talking like 30-second responses. I got a lot of questions for you, and we got
let's go.
You ready to roll? Okay, cool.
I'm ready to roll.
So some of these are going to be kind of broad, so feel free to, I'm going to just give you some context. Some of these are broad, so I know that.
Okay.
And I'll start with the first one. What are the best products to sell on Amazon?
The ones that have customer demand and other people aren't selling a lot of, like as much competition. So high demand, low competition.
What's one of your number one success stories? Something that just really stands out in terms of like a sales day or like just a cool launch or anything of those of that nature.
I was able to get a deal of the day from Amazon. So, that's not just a lightning deal, but that's right at the top, and did about $70,000 in sales in one day last month. So
how did you get that spot?
So I'm in the Amazon exclusives program. Something, if you want to look at that and you have a brand, you can go Google Amazon exclusives. You can actually apply there. But there are some perks you get, including a rep, and I had a rep that was able to help me and push for a deal of the day for one of my product lines. And we did one day $70,000 in sales. So pretty crazy.
Dude, how did you find out that you had gotten that spot? Like, did they send you an email, or were you on the phone with them and they're like, we're going to give it to you?
No, so my rep told me, like, you should do a deal of the day. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then they pitched somebody else at Amazon. They had to pitch for it like a week later. And then they sent me a message like, hey, deal of the day approved. And I was like, holy cow. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. I mean, pretty much any product that gets a deal of the day is going to do a tremendous amount of sales that day.
Did that like skyrocket your like because I know like a big thing is kind of like it's like a snowball effect once you get sales flying, and that's why a lot of people, they launch like high budget PPC and stuff to like get things moving, the sales velocity increase. Like did that change the game for that product for you, or was it more or less kind of like a one day thing and then it went back to normal?
No, there's definitely a halo effect. I mean, so you have a lot of benefits. So I did about a 25% sale right on the product. So the profit margins were less, but there's a lot of benefits in doing it. One, you're putting a lot of people who would never know about your brand, see your brand, right? And they might buy once, they might buy again. you're going to get a flood of reviews, right? Because you're getting a ton of sales. And so the best way to get more reviews is to get more sales. So you get a lot of reviews. And yeah, I had a product that was at about 40,000 rank before. And since then, this is now about a month and a half since, has consistently stayed under 15,000 rank after that deal today. So definitely there's a halo effect in terms of that boost in sales will also boost your rankings. And again, it's going to get you more reviews, going to get customers to know and maybe recommend your brand that never have seen it, to buy maybe multiple products from you. So again, that's when it makes sense to have a brand, because, now people are like, oh, what other products does this brand sell, and look at. So yeah, pretty crazy day. My best sales day ever on Amazon.
Dude, you better have sent your Amazon rep like a bottle of wine or a box of chocolates or something.
Yeah, I know. I was just talking to my wife about sending her a gift, because she's been super stressed. It sounds to me like Q4 at Amazon is a super stressful time. So yeah, definitely going to be sending something out to her.
All right, I screwed up that rapid fire. I got too excited. Back to the rapid fire.
All right, let's go.
One thing you love, one thing you hate about private label.
I love the creativity and owning my own brand. One thing I hate about private label, that's a good question. I guess the cash flow cycle takes longer, right? It could take 3 months, before you see any money back on a new product launch, and shipping times and all that. So that's definitely a challenge.
Someone brand new, maybe they're coming from retail arbitrage game or eBay, and they want to start private label. What's the minimum amount of money that you'd like to see in their bank account?
I would say $5,000 is a good amount of money to have. You need money to source a product, right? So if you're going to get 300 to 400 units of a product, that might cost you $6, let's say, or 3,000 plus. You need money for initial PPC, for photography, for some giveaways you're going to do to launch your product. So I would say $5,000 is a good amount of money to start with for private label.
What's one strategy that's working really well when launching a new product to get reviews on it?
So, there's services out there for giveaways. So one strategy we've been teaching in our inner circle is using Facebook offer ads. And if you don't know, with Facebook offer ads, you can actually distribute single-use coupon codes right on Facebook, and then you can do a nice launch for your product targeting keywords and ranking utilizing Facebook offer ads.
One thing about business that I've learned over the last 5 years, from transitioning to working for restaurants and different companies to being on my own, is things always change. What's one thing that's changed over the last couple of years, from maybe 2015 when you started to today, where if you were to still practice that, you would have probably not been making money or been losing or maybe even kicked off? Who knows?
Oh, yeah. So, big change in the private label world has been incentivized reviews, right? So last year, October 2016, Amazon came out and said you can no longer give product at a discount or free in exchange for review. That was a big game changer, made it much more difficult to get reviews, and is a good lesson, because when something is working well on Amazon, you need to be aggressive and take full advantage of it, because some of those reviews were ultimately deleted, but there were some brands that went out and got thousands and thousands of reviews that did these giveaways at a discount. And, they're a step ahead of the game, right? Because now, a product may have 3,000-4,000 reviews, and a new product or somebody who didn't take advantage of that opportunity to do a lot of giveaways, maybe they did a little and got like 20, 30 reviews and weren't super aggressive. Now it's much harder for them to get those reviews. And so the lesson is, when something's working well on Amazon and it's within their terms, take full advantage, run with it, be aggressive.
Wow, that's a really, really good tip right there. I feel like that even translates over to like other businesses as well. Like if it's working, go for it. People I feel like are scared, like they're doing something wrong. But if you understand the rules, and you're playing within the lines, go for it. So that's really big right there. If you go back in time, Liron, and with the knowledge you now have, back to 2015, and give yourself one piece of advice, maybe something to do differently or something to continue to do in your private label business, what would that be?
Yeah, so I feel like something I did early on was probably, which is good and bad, but I probably launched too many products at once, in a sense, and not focused more on less products and more aggressive with each one of those products. Order more units, do more giveaways, get more reviews, just focus, and then maybe move on to the next one, instead of maybe thinning out some of what you could do cash flow wise with going kind of wider on products. So I would say, starting out, focus on one product, get it really going, get that revenue there, and then move on to the next one, and focus on a probably initial smaller set of total products.
Interesting. That's really good advice. We're getting down to the last couple of questions. So
Sure.
what are your thoughts on the future of private label on Amazon? Do you think this game is going to be around for, 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Do you think that Amazon's favoring private label sellers over maybe retail arbitrage with all the restrictions and stuff? What are your thoughts on the sustainability and long-term growth of this business model?
Yeah, so I mean, Amazon has taken a lot of steps to appeal to brands. So I do think, there is favoring in terms of private labeling because, yeah, they're making it easier for brands to restrict who's selling their product. I think more things like that are going to come within brand registry, allowing you to kick somebody off a listing very easily if they're not an authorized seller. They're allowing you, just in the last week, I've been able to now do coupons, which has only been available to brands. If you think about stuff that's available now to third-party sellers like FBA that wasn't available, things like lightning deals, right? So they're definitely doing more to appeal to brands. And I do think, private label, it's not going to get easier, right? Because there's more products, more people coming into the game. So I think the people that are really going to win are the people that are innovating, that are building an audience, that are building a brand, that they have something, more than just kind of like the latest launching spinners or something, right? As a product. So I think it still will be there, but I think it will require really building a brand and differentiating your product line.
Awesome. That's great knowledge right there. Definitely appreciate that. So I know you mentioned before that at the end of December, I think you guys have a training program that is coming out. And right now I know there is a kind of like a notification list as well. So if you guys want to check that out, you can go over to amazingfreedom.com/Raiken. I will link that up down below. But it's not available right now. But could you kind of mention to the people who are maybe interested in starting a program or getting in a course? I know there's a lot of them out there, but maybe talk about yours, how it's going to be different and kind of what's going to be inside of it. And I'm sure we'll come back with another video in a couple months, kind of, sharing more details about it. But could you give a little insight into it?
Sure. Yep. So we have a private label course, which actually is multiple courses within. So we have a separate course included with that on sponsored products, a separate course on keywords and keyword research, actually we're just launching with this product training launch, the whole thing just on VAs and hiring VAs and best practices.
I like that.
Nate, who's, on our team, has hired over like VAs in the last year for our business. So really detailed on that. But basically the course takes you from A to Z on how to find products to source and sell on Amazon, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to import, how to launch those products and rank on the first page, how to do sponsored products. And I think the one thing that really differentiates us from other courses, one, we have something called the product evaluation guide, where as long as you're in our inner circle group, which you get several months of free access when you sign up for the course, of your potential product idea before you launch your product. And then we were, in fact, last night at 10 o'clock at night, Andy, Nate, and I, we spent like 2 to 3 hours going over our course members' product ideas, where they give us an Excel spreadsheet, they fill out some stuff that we ask them to, and we will tell you if we think it's a viable idea, yes, and why. If we think it's not a great idea to launch a product, and why. And so that's something I don't think any other course out there does. And we answer every single question in our inner circle group. We do monthly content and webinars there, so I think we're much more accessible than, not necessarily bashing other gurus, right? But there's people out there like Ezra Firestone and some big players out there that offer courses. And I've taken courses from other people that are great, but sometimes you can't get to the person teaching the course and ask them a question. You have to email support or something. So I think that's the biggest thing that differentiates us, really, answering every question. The course also has a money back guarantee. So if you don't like the course after 30 days, you could just request a refund. And we don't really play games as far as asking you why or trying to convince you to stay. And if it's not for you, it's not for you.
And that's why I was excited to bring you on the show, because I really, connected with you when we met in Jersey. And Andy, he's actually helped me out quite a bit in the past. We've had him on the channel before, and I think you guys are all great. So for anybody interested in kind of learning more about that, again, it's not available now, but be sure to get on their mailing list. It's amazingfreedom.com/Raiken, and you can check that out. Also, get into their free Facebook group. It's free. They answer questions in there. There's also a lot of great people in there who are kind of helping out and, kind of putting their input and 2 cents on questions and have a lot of experience. So go over there to Facebook, Amazing Freedom as well. And I'll link all that up down below. But I mean, do you have any final words of wisdom for someone they watch this, they're excited, they're like, all right, I want to make this happen. Like, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I mean, my advice would be to take action, right? Because that's the biggest difference between people who achieve success and people who don't achieve success. We have somebody in our course recently, they posted, that they finally launched a product and had success, and they had bought a different course in the past, and they lost some money on the product. I don't know that it's the course's fault per se, but they launched a product and it wasn't successful, but they didn't give up, right? They put more money into a different product and they tried again. And, I think that's the biggest thing that differentiates people, who are successful and not successful. Before my success on Amazon, I had, I don't know, 6 or 7 different online marketing ventures that failed, right? I remember years back going to Frank Kern's building a list seminar in San Diego and, all these different, internet marketing things I've tried in the past. And, you finally kind of hit on something that's successful. So I think the biggest thing is you want to take action. If you think, private label is something you want to pursue, then whether or not you buy a course or not, pursue it, take steps, take action, and write down your goals. This is a great time to think about 2018 and where do I want to be Q4 2018, and then backtracking, what are the steps I need to take in order to make it happen.
So there you go, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. Leron, thank you for bringing the fire, man. I knew you were going to bring the heat, but man, I'm sweating. Connecticut, I got to turn the air conditioning on over here. So big shout out to you, Leron, for bringing the knowledge, man. Number 2, I got to shout out the AirPods, man. Show everybody I love these things. When I work out with them, though, they always fall out. Do yours stay in your ears, or do I just have deformed ears?
No, mine kind of pretty much do stay in, which is what I like about them. But I find like for earbuds, I like Apple's the best in terms of like something that actually stays in and
it's all brand, baby.
Exactly. I really like them a lot. They work really well, and the battery lasts a very long time, which is great.
I know, I love them. So shout out to you, shout out to Apple, shout out to building a brand. And I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys enjoyed this on the podcast, iTunes, do me a big favor and leave an honest review if you enjoyed it. Let me know any tips too, if you want me to improve this or any guests you want me to bring on. YouTube, of course, like, comment, subscribe for more shows. Check out Amazing Freedom, links down below, amazingfreedom.com, Amazing Freedom on Facebook, Amazing Freedom everywhere. Go get it, go check it out, and appreciate you, Leron. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.